Hello, hello. Welcome to our call for the 14th of April, 2022. Let's dive right into things. We are discussing monitoring. We're doing study management and then continuing on our success essentials for today from Elizabethtown, overcoming the conditions of our lives. So let's get on. So it's a very short one on monitoring today, and the ICS GCP talks about creating a comprehensive monitoring plan. And it's that we have to tailor this for human protection, of course, subject protection and data integrity, right? And it has to be strategic. It has to list out all the monitoring responsibilities for all the parties that are involved, the monitoring methods to be used. And that's really with an S, because we can do remote monitoring, on-site monitoring, central monitoring, link that to risk management, and then all the tools and resources that we're going to use to monitor. And of course, we have to emphasize critical data and processes. Critical thinking is so important in clinical trials. You're constantly looking at risk, constantly looking at what possible things could happen and how can you mitigate those risks, what the downstream effects are if we take this action now or we do not take it, what is going to happen, down the road, and how will that affect the data integrity and subject safety for this clinical trial. So we are constantly looking at that, and a great clinical researcher must have a critical mind. And we are paying particular attention, of course, those things that are routine clinical practice and that require additional training. So, of course, right, if we understand what we're supposed to do, then should something happen, do they need additional training? Do they need a CAPA, a corrective action and prevention plan? And also, the monitoring plan has to be an intrinsic part of the applicable policies and procedures. So that's where we draw from to write a good monitoring plan. So this is important. I mean, the monitoring aspect of a clinical trial, again, it has expanded. We have remote central monitoring, on-site monitoring. We even have oversight monitoring, which is actually the obligation of the sponsor, but there's so much that is being done. There are even organizations just having a department that does oversight monitoring, periodic checks. Okay, so just be aware that the monitoring plan is very important because we have to look at the data, we have to look at the regulatory documents, and it's a constant moving piece. And we really have to make sure that we are adhering to the protocol, SOPs, regulatory standards, and all that good stuff. So that's it. That's a short one for today. And we're now going to dive into our success essentials for week 15. And this is from Elizabethtown. Okay, and then so our first one is that she says conditions like people are growing things, never 2 minutes in exactly the same state. If you pin your happiness to a thing or friend, you probably have to unpin it before night, right? So we don't have to cling to anything. In the Facebook chat, I have a video, and it should be on YouTube as well, which talks about aparigraha, clinging to things, right? Covetousness, stealing, clinging to past ideas of yourself or past ideas of other people, pinning. Basically, you're relying on materiality for your happiness. Materiality is beautiful. We love it, but, it's a constantly shifting thing. So she says that if you cling to a thing, you lay your happiness on a thing or a friend, by the night, you will have to unpin it. And there was something that I just learned about the difference between happiness and pleasure. Happiness is forever there. It's just something that comes as a result of being thankful, but being grateful in our lives. But pleasure is so stagnant. Like pleasure changes constantly. But a lot of times we live life based on pleasure. So people think, well, if I take that amazing vacation and I go somewhere, I am going to have such a wonderful time. My life will be perfect. Or a couple who are having issues, they're like, oh, let's go on vacation. And they go on the vacation and they are at each other's throat, right? Because they're thinking that if I go on that vacation, things will be better because they're relying on pleasure. But happiness is everlasting and it's a constant practice. It's practice every single day. And then it becomes a habit. And before you know it, something happens in your life and you're like, oh, okay, well, moving on. Because you've practiced this gratitude and meditation and all these different spiritual things. And then consequently, you don't pin your life on anybody. You realize that, I honestly do not need anybody. And I really mean it when I say this. When you come to the point that you don't need people, that's when you have a better relationship with people, because then you're not asking them for anything. You're not looking at somebody and trying to figure out what they're going to give you. That's the beauty of it. Now, she says, happiness, real happiness of the abiding, growing kind, never comes as a result of fitting circumstances to your notions. It comes from fitting yourself to circumstances. In no other way can it be found. Just talked about that. You cannot rely on the circumstances to change and then be happy then. You have to change and then the circumstances will change. And what changes really is your perception. I could be running down the street. Let me even give a better example. When I was growing up, and we were at this resort, and I had my mom got attacked by some Great Danes, and she got bitten. And so for the rest of my life, I remember I was 3 years old and I saw her with blood and all this stuff. And that image stayed in my mind. It took me a while to even be comfortable around dogs. And now, soft, cute, fluffy dogs, I'm okay with them, but certain dogs I cannot, because imagine that imprint in my mind. And that's how powerful this world is, But I've worked on myself. I've changed myself. Now I can tolerate some of them and play and be at ease. Not at a Great Dane level. I'm not at a Great Dane level yet. I'm still working on that. But I'm just saying, the world can be so impactful on us, and that if we rely on it, we're going to lose our minds. So guess what? You got to keep working on yourself, and the circumstances around you will change. Okay. So she says, in no other way can it be found. You don't wait for your husband to change. You don't wait for your work colleagues to change. You don't wait for your children to change. You change yourself. You change your perception of it. Like I'm constantly changing my perception of the way that I see dogs. And that's more helpful. So let's move on. After all, this is much easier to do. There is but one of you to be adjusted, while all the rest of creation goes to make up your environment. And your power over yourself is practically unlimited, whilst your power over even your immediate environment is next to nothing. When I read this, I said, hallelujah. Because I've known this for years. The physical world is materiality. It's already condensed, congealed. Can you go outside and push your car and drag it down the street? No, you cannot. But the thought of a car, right? That is in your mind. It's fluid. You can close your eyes and visualize a red car, a blue car. You can visualize yourself pushing a car. You can visualize yourself pulling a house. You can visualize yourself flying with a house on clouds, right? So the only power within yourself is the unlimited one. And it's that power that you can use to change your environment. If you want to go out there and change the environment, again, material stuff, this matter is condensed thought. So you have to start with the thought, and then, the changes will happen in the world. But if you want to go out there and work, like people say, yeah, we have to work hard. I agree. But working hard to me now, when I get up in the morning and I am excited, I don't want to even sleep some days. It's because I've come to the point where I've worked to doing things that I love. So what I currently do in my life, I love everything that I do. And so that's hard work, because I don't mind hard work, but there's the other type of hard work that I used to do, doing things that I don't love and pushing and back-breaking type of work, not like physical, but just constantly struggling, right? And I switched. Same work, same environment. I know I don't have to prove myself to anybody because I'm already enough. And so the work that I've done, which came through the Yoga Sutras again, all these books and ideas came when I started reading the Yoga Sutras, and I started, attracting all these different people. Again, the work is done within. Bottom line, it's in you. The work is being done in you, because you're unlimited. You can imagine whatever you want. You can change. The ability to change yourself is unlimited, but the ability to change other people of the world, it's finite, right? You might want to go change something before you realize it's not even there. Somebody has moved it. You know, how many times have you wanted to go do something and they're like, oh, that's that. Oh, you want to go buy something in this beautiful shop. Oh, that shop doesn't exist anymore. It closed down. So you don't have any control over that, but you have control over yourself saying, oh, well, it's closed down. So guess what? I think I'm going to have to go to another place, right? That's it. What power has a convict over his prison walls and keepers? But he has all power over his mind and has all power over his body within the limits set by his prison walls and his keeper's rules. So again, if you're in prison, those physical walls, the only power that they have is you allow them to have power. And when I'm talking about prison, I'm talking about not just a prison. Many of us on this planet are living in prisons. I mean, we really are. I'm always amazed by that. We have the freedom. We have been given freedom of choice, and we have the freedom to choose to live in a prison of our own perception. You know, I'm not good enough. There's certain things that I cannot do. And the more that you say them over and over, they really become true a prison wall. The ultimate prison, I say, is the prison of the mind. So even if you're a convict and you're within the prison walls, you still have the freedom of your mind. And we know the stories of people who are in prison. And, you know, I mean, of course, it's a cliche, but Nelson Mandela, right? That's the most common one. His mind grew and it expanded. And by the time that he came out, he was a completely different human being because he was feeding his mind. But it happens to all of us. Let's talk about, you know, people that you know in your neighborhood, in your society, who have gone through really difficult situations. We all have. I'm certainly have my own challenges. But the thing that I know for a fact is that every human being has the potential within them to overcome anything. So long as you're using your mind, you're transcending the world. And what I mean is that something happens, you say, absolutely not, this is unacceptable. I'm going to see this situation in a different way. There's something that I learned from Louise Hay, and she says, every time that something happens, what you say is, all is well. Only good will come out of this. Everything always works out for my highest good. And I added, and greatest joy. And the last thing is that I am safe. So she says, no matter what happens, you say that all is well. Only good will come out of this. Everything works out for my highest good and greatest joy, and I am safe. It's your mind working. So you reframe the situation. You tell a different story. Stephen Chandler has an amazing book called The Story of You. I highly recommend it to everyone. And he talks about that. We're just telling stories. He said, we're born with an internal story that people told us. And then as we go through life, we're supposed to build our own stories. You're just telling stories about a situation. So those are the thoughts on Elizabethtown. Today, we talked about the monitoring plan, right? Important. Know what it's about. Understand what the monitoring requirements are for your project at whatever level you are. I always say clinical research side, clinical research monitor, remote monitor, central monitor, oversight monitor, whatever it is, you want to understand what the monitoring plan is, because that will direct a lot of the activities that you're doing whether you're conducting the procedures of the clinical trial or you're managing them. Okay. And then, of course, we went through all the ideas of Elizabethtown and just really good stuff. Okay. So thank you guys for watching. And I'm looking forward to us meeting for our monthly call so that I can respond to any questions that you have. Okay, be well and keep checking out those Facebook Live videos. I have a lot to share there. They're an extension of this success mindset. And it's really helpful to a lot of people. So keep joining, keep listening, repetition. Everything you do, you have something that you would like or an idea, you implement it, right? What do? It becomes a habit because you do it often, repeat it over and over and over and over again, right? Uninterruptedly for a long period of time. That's the key. Repetition, uninterrupted, long periods of time. And you must condense that idea. You must attract whatever you want. So long as you keep doing this over and over again, it must happen. If it doesn't happen, it's because you stopped. And when I say it could be something you're acquiring. It could be, having a different idea of yourself, changing the way you think, because ultimately that's really where it starts. Once you change the way you think and you see yourself, then you start noticing how your life is transforming. Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye.